So you probably clicked on this video to learn some tips about how to help you write your first screenplay. And that is what this video is about. I don't know if you were expecting anything different than just like and subscribe and leave a comment or something. Tip number 1, know the basic stuff of your script. And by that, I mean not only should you know basic stuff about writing scripts, like the contents of your script and slug lines and basic formatting, but also just other basic stuff that you probably know about but keep forgetting to do. These things are like outlines, characters' wants versus needs, how characters get from scene A to B, all kinds of stuff like that that are pretty important to do before you actually start writing. These can cause big problems early on because you're trying to make a stew with a cookbook, but because you're trying to make a stew without a cookbook. Even if you have all the ingredients, you won't know how to put them all together or cook them properly. An example of how this can help your script and avoid problems early on is from the script I'm currently working on. It's right here. And to summarize its plot as quickly as possible, it's a horror show based on the SCP universe. If you don't know what that is, just know it's a rabbit hole I could spend 8 hours explaining, and just watch Inside Job and you'll get it.
What up, Deep State? Today I control you!
Oh, this will go well.
Before I started writing this, I had a general idea about what the story was, but that was about it. I could have gotten right into it and started writing whatever down and figured it out later, but I wanted this to actually be good. So I wrote an actual outline of the major events in order, what the character wanted versus needed, which characters she would meet and what their deal is, etc., etc. And so far the script has gone much smoother than it would have been because I actually have a roadmap of what's going to happen, and if I forget something, I can check it, or if I have a cool new idea, I can update it. Long point short, always do an outline before you even start writing a script. Tip number 2, write a certain number of pages a day. This one should be pretty self-explanatory. Just write, write, write. If you practice often, then you'll get better as a writer. If you focus on your script and get even a little bit done every day, then it will be done much faster. I would recommend writing 1 page a day because it's a small enough quota you can easily surpass in an afternoon, and you will have a first draft in about 2 months. However, this tip can be tricky to actually do because it is entirely dependent on how much you can motivate yourself. For example, remember how I said I'm working on this script here? Well, that was a lie. This is a completely different script. And that's because my current script that I mentioned before is only 5 pages long. And it's because I have no motivation for it. I'm not being paid. I'm not going to pitch it to someone who will pay me. I don't even have a screenwriting class I'm in, so I don't have to do it for homework. But if I was in a screenwriting class, then that would definitely be done by now because I have to do it for homework, and it would just motivate me to get it done better than if I just sat in a room and stared at a blank page. So here's a helpful sub-tip I heard a professional screenwriter does. Pick an organization you hate, write a check for $100, and if your script isn't done by a certain date, donate the check to them. Tip number 3, don't try to do too much and overdo it. This means that if this is your first script, don't try to put all your big ideas in and expect them to work out perfectly. This also applies to more advanced screenwriters, but if every scene has some cool big twist or a cool action scene or pretty much just everything you think is cool crammed into one scene, then your movie will actually start to become pretty boring and really bloated, because then the whole thing just becomes cool thing happens and everyone claps.
Oh, they fly now!
They fly now? They fly now!
Remember, editing is your friend, and its main job is to get rid of all the useless crap you don't need. Tip number 4, if you don't know exactly what to write, just write what basically happens and come back later. This was an incredibly helpful technique when I was in a screenwriting class because it just allowed me to breeze past things that were hard to write and get on with it. What I did was I would add some brackets, then write what basically happens into it without putting too much thought into it, and move on to what happens after that. This will help keep your flow going so you won't hit as many big brick walls and lets you get done quicker. Just be sure to actually come back and fix them, otherwise you'll end up like me when I showed my script the first time I did this, where I basically just wrote brackets and my film professor, who had to read some characters do some stuff, and then one of them does a big Sailor Moon transformation, and that's it. And then things went on from there. Tip number 5, just get the first draft done. This is probably the most important point I could give. Your first draft doesn't have to be good, it just has to be a mostly complete story with a beginning, middle, and end. This is because the next stage you should go on to after writing a script is editing, where you look at the script, see what does and doesn't work, and how you fix the stuff that doesn't work. It is really hard to edit while your script is still being written, so having a full 60 pages you can look through is much easier than 5 pages that are probably going to be edited later anyway. Again, your first draft can be terrible for all it matters. It just has to be done so you can move on. So that is all 5 tips I can give, so like and subscribe and leave a comment below.